Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll show you how I magnetised the Rogal Dorn battle tank for the Astra Militarum. You may have already seen the unboxing video where I went through all the sprues and all the different parts that come with the tank, and then you could see it fully assembled. But in this video we're going to focus just on magnetising some of the weapons. I've got some Cadians, but I do focus my army mostly on Kachan, so I've themed the crew with that in mind, and I'll be painting those separately and then just gluing them in place. But let's have a look at the different weapons that will be magnetised. So I've used some blue tack just to put everything in place for the time being. So it's these main turret weapons that I want to magnetise. The heavy stubber, I'll just glue that in place. But let's have a look at what we've got going on here. So we've got the turret, and this is where the main magnetisation's going to go. My favourite configuration is the oppressor cannon, but I might want to use that twin battle can as well. Now the oppressor cannon's got that D6 plus 3 shots, whereas the twin battle can is 2d6. So yeah, I want to have those options. I'm also going to magnetise the heavy bolters and the 2 multi-melters that are going to go in the sponsons. This I'm going to leave in place, the castigator Gatling cannon. I really like it. It just looks awesome, so I didn't worry about magnetising, but it'd be really easy if you wanted to swap it over for the pulverizer with a simple magnet. I've also glued the melter guns in place because I like the look of those, and I could easily proxy them for the heavy stubbers. But again, if you wanted to magnetise them, just some tiny magnets would do the trick, no problem. So what are you going to need to magnetise? I like Loctite super glue, the power gel version. That thick gel really makes a difference for projects like this. I've also got a ruler. Metal's probably not ideal. Then I've got a selection of different magnets. I did change the ones I thought I was going to use. At first I thought I'd go for 6mm by 2mm, but as you'll see later in the video, I changed that up. I've also got some tiny magnets, which are 2mm by 2mm for the sponsons, and some little drill bits, all different sizes to match those different magnets. And then I put it in this little tool just to hold it in place so I could just get a better grip. I've got this little file which has come in really handy because I want to just score a little mark in there before I start drilling, and that's really going to help me to be accurate. So I just do that, make a little mark in the dead centre of each of the sponson weapons, and that's all you need to get a nice firm grip for the drill bit. Do the same for the sponsons themselves, and then that should line up nicely, and then you can just start slowly using the hand drill. You could use like a Dremel if you wanted, that would work, but I like to use the hand drill, a bit slower. You've got more control, and as you can see there, we've got the hole just right, and then do the same on these little sponson weapons, and then you'll have all your holes lined up, ready for the magnet to fit in perfectly. Now I went in a little bit far on this one, so just be careful because it is very fine. But once it's glued in, that's going to be okay. I've also finished all 4 of the sponson weapons. So here's the little magnets, and as you can see, they're going to fit in perfectly now, and then that's the right height. Before we move on to the messy gluing stage, I'd just like to say thanks to everyone who signed up to my Patreon. Really appreciate that. It's been awesome to have you there. Hope you've enjoyed the perks that have been going up lately, and I've also put some new ones up as well. So instead of just getting the missions and regular content that I put on there, you can now do things like pay £33 to sponsor a video. So if you've got a business or you want to do a shout out for a friend's birthday or something like that, that's a nice idea. And I've also got some other perks where I can help you to start your own channel or write your own book. So I'll put a link in the description down below where you can find out more. Okay, let's get on with the gluing. So I'm just putting a tiny bead of this glue in there in the little hole of the sponson weapons first, and then I can pop the magnets in and just slide it off, and that glue's strong enough that it's going to keep that in place, and the hole is just the right size to hold it too. To make sure that magnet is pushed right in, I rub it onto the wooden bench or use the end of a wooden brush. You can see I've got the magnets all at the end of this big line of chunky magnets, and that's to keep them all in place so they're oriented the same. And then I switch them to the other end so that when I put those in the sponsons themselves and glue those in place, all the magnets I put in the weapons are going to line up. So I did all 4 weapons first and then the 2 sponsons, and here you can see I'm using the back of a wooden brush just to make sure that's nice and flush, ready to take those weapons when they go in. And when that glue's dry, it doesn't take long at all, you can put the weapons in, and that magnet is just small and strong enough to hold it in place. Now let's have a look at these turret weapons. So these were the magnets I was going to use at first, the 6mm by 3mm. They were just too big and chunky, so you can see later on I changed my mind, but the process of doing it was pretty much the same. So you line up the magnets. I used this conical, is that the right word? A conical file to make a hole big enough to accept the drill bits, and then I slowly started going from small drill bits up to larger ones to make that hole big enough. But I realised there's no way I'm going to get a 6mm drill bit in here. I'm just going to mess this right up. And so I changed my mind and just kept going with the little conical file, and then switched over to these magnets. Now these should be strong enough. They're certainly going to hold it in place. They're a lot smaller. They're going to be, what, 3mm altogether by 3mm, or sorry, 4mm by 3mm. That's the size of these, and then that's going to go in nicely, and as you can see there, that's going to line up. Just get it lined up so it's pointing in the direction that the weapon's going to be pointing in. That's really important. You don't want a wonky battle cannon, that's for sure. With the hole drilled in the turret itself, it's time to have a look at the different weapons. So here's the oppressor cannon, and you can see it's got this little peg that would have got in the slot that we've drilled out. Now I want to get this nice and flat so that I can then drill a hole in there and pop a magnet in. So I'm going to use this tool again to just find the center. I'll measure it up with a ruler as well, but I want to get that flat first. So I'm going to use my blade here. I'm using that piece of the actual cannon itself as a guide, so if I do slip, I'm not going to cut my thumb. Then I get my ruler and I'm measuring up, trying to get to the very center, score a little line, and I want to drill right in there. And this is where things didn't start going to plan, and I just got it a little bit off center, which is going to be fine for the twin battle cannon, but not so good for this one. And you can also see you've got to be very careful not to drill all the way through. That fits in there nicely now, so we'll grab some glue and then we'll glue that in place. And again, you want to really make sure that that magnet is lined up with the actual cannon itself, and so when it goes on, it's going to be glued on straight. So I just have a look from all different angles, make sure it's lined up, correct it with a brush quickly before it sets if needed. This one was fairly easy. I thought the magnet might just sneak in there, but it wouldn't. So I've had to trim up a little bit of sprue. So I just carved that with a blade, and nothing fancy here because we're just going to glue it in place with plastic glue and some super glue as well, just to make sure. So I start off with the plastic glue, let it in there, let it set, and then I went over it with a bit of super glue, just filling in the gaps if you like, just so it's really solid, because we are going to be gluing a magnet straight onto it, as you can see here. And I make sure that the magnets are lined up using the same trick I used before, where I'll do all the magnets on the turret weapons first, then on this occasion I'll spin those magnets around onto the drill bit so I know they're facing the right way. Then I pop some glue in the turret, and this hole goes all the way through, so make sure you don't push the magnet too far in. Make sure it's lined up correctly. I check it so many times to make sure. Push that in there, slide the magnets off, and then I'll use that paintbrush again, the wooden one, just to push it in place. So there we go. We've got all the magnets now in our weapons, and you can see that magnet is strong enough to hold it. Now there's a slight twist to this that I wasn't happy with, and I corrected that. I'll show you it later on in the video. But that one magnet is going to be enough, but I do fear just a little twist is going to be a bit annoying once you play the game. I tried gluing a little peg in place, but that didn't really work. Now I want to use the storage and make the most of this missing piece at the bottom of the tank. What's going on there? And so I want to put a little magnet in so that one of the turret weapons can be stored underneath all the time. And so I want it to go in just like that, and then a magnet's going to hold it in place. So I get a brush, put some blue tack on it, make sure the magnet's lined up correctly, stick that on the blue tack, and then super glue it straight onto the plastic. No drilling required, and that's really strong. Lots of that gel glue is going to hold that in place. And then with these two turret weapons, the spare ones, I've got one, I was a bit lazy to be honest, I got one big fat magnet that they would both fit on, and then just glued that straight to the side, and that's all you need to do. So now you'll be able to store the weapons underneath, which is one bonus for not having the bottom of the tank in place, which to be fair, won't affect the gameplay. And here we are. Here's the tank then, already done now. It's all magnetized. I'll show you what I did to this oppressor cannon, because I did add one extra magnet. I was really annoyed that it was twisting. So I drilled a hole in the turret there, and then as you can see, it's got two magnets in now. Same size as the one that I did previously. Popped another one on there, and now that's going to line up really nice. That's solid. That's not twisting. That's not going anywhere. Much better. And this is the cannon I'll be using all of the time, to be fair, because I really like it. let's get the turret off and we can have a look at the other weapons. You've got the Sponson weapons, which now fit in really well, and those magnets hold it nicely. You don't need massive magnets, that's strong enough. And underneath, you've got the 2 spare ones that just simply pop onto it. And as you can see, I missed with one, but a little shake, it finds it itself. And then this big one is really nice and snug for the twin battle cannon. You can just pop it back in there. And then lining that up, you just got to make sure the peg goes in place, and then that lines up nicely too. And there you go. You've got that option if you wish to use it as well. So I think it's worth spending a little bit of time magnetizing these weapons. Not the most fun thing for me to do personally. I really don't like working with super glue, but definitely worth it to have the option. And that just nice and easily pops in place and is really secure with that one single magnet. My next step now is to get this all painted up, paint all the miniatures separately, and I'll be doing it the same as I've done for my Lehman Russ. But all up, I really enjoyed building this tank, and it's such a cool tank. It's my favourite out of all the ones I've got now. So I hope if you do get it, this video helps you, gives you some ideas about what you might like to do to get it magnetised. Also, what not to do, learn by my mistakes, and hopefully you'll get something from this video. But thanks so much for watching. I'd love to hear what you think about this method of magnetising, and share your hobby tips in the comment section below. It's always great to read through them and hear what you've got to say as well. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, subscribe as well, because that really helps the channel. So if you've been enjoying the videos, please consider subscribing, that would be awesome. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you here next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games.